this extraordinary book, Whatever Happened to the New Age, Master Djwhal Khul traces humanity's karmic history through the Piscean Age and lays out the potentialities that this new age is offering. He challenges spiritual aspirants to release the power over mentality of the Piscean Age and collectively co-create the Aquarian Age. This requires a radical spiritual paradigm shift of both the personal and planetary transformation that mystics and luminaries have long foretold. Master offers ancient wisdom practices set in the context of these contemporary times that help one's contemplative mind generate insights that can bring about the desired mystical aliveness on a path to enlightenment. Healing Earth and her inhabitants necessitates a new cosmic mythos. The conflicting forces of these two ages may be just what propels this shift for our next leap in consciousness. If you're feeling the need for some divine guidance for navigating your spiritual path in this new age, this book is for you.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today as we celebrate the launch of Whatever Happened to the New Age. After all the hard work from our volunteers, we have a tangible physical book. Today, we are celebrating the full blossoming of all our efforts. So I want to take you back to 2019, when we actually began laying plans for the book. The Perpetuity Project was begun, which has largely funded this book project. Of course, initially, I had a somewhat different type of book in mind. I was looking ahead to what I thought spiritual aspirants would need to know in order to actually draw forth the very best of the arising potentialities for this new age, the seemingly long-awaited Aquarian Age. Well, clearly, the universe is doing its part by supporting all those brilliant constellations whose energy fields Earth travels through and encounters. Yet, as some of you are discovering, humanity also has a role to play. As you may recall from several of the more memorable pop songs of the late 1960s and early 70s, the shift into the Aquarian Age was set forth in a highly idealized manner, wasn't it? For the most part, the new age was simply predicted to be one of abiding peace, love, kindness, and global community. All humans had to do was simply sit back and enjoy the ride. Well, some of you likely remember those days. They were fun and exciting, if not all that grounded and practical. Yet you may also recall that those making the predictions forgot to include the reactionary backlash that humans always tend to wield when they must face change, particularly when they feel that the impending change is not optional. Of course, this paradigm shift is not optional, at least not for humanity. It must go the way the planet goes, like it or not. You see, negotiating this intersection is not up for a vote, is it? Yet even so, facing unsolicited change is not what humanity tends to do well. Rather, folks resort to raising a collective resistance, as if taking such a stance could change the plans of the cosmos. Well, perhaps the hippie generation actually got some of it right, at least insofar as potentiality is concerned. Yet, looking back now, the case history turned out quite different from the predictions initially uttered. While a major paradigm shift is underway, unfortunately, the backlash factor has been much greater than could have possibly been seen back then. Indeed, the astrological shift into the Aquarian Age has thus far been a bit of a bumpy ride, and frankly, I think there may still be a few more bumps ahead. That said, for many of you, it has only been in the past couple of months that the incoming Aquarian energies, at least those most palpable, have seemed more uplifting, perhaps even hopeful. Indeed, the past decade has played host to a pretty rough journey, and for people everywhere. While the last few years may have seemed as if some grand crescendo of intensity was building, we have not yet come to the climax. The world at large still does not know how to integrate and apply the newly experienced cosmic energy streaming from the constellation of Aquarius. And frankly, that tends to make life on Earth a bit messy, doesn't it? Well, as you will discover from the book, the chaos of this time is, well, not altogether unexpected, or it shouldn't be. You see, every age-to-age transition is tricky to negotiate for those making the planetary journey. While this one may indeed seem like a rough journey, you just don't remember the conditions you faced during prior age-to-age transitions. Well, clearly, things would go smoother if humans were able to grasp the bigger picture and align with it. Indeed, rather than resisting it, exploring its possibilities might just be a better option. The bottom line is that change is happening so fast that humans simply cannot keep pace with it. So what do? They resist it, although not very effectively. It seems that humanity has not yet awakened to these greater possibilities. I'm referring to the list of qualities originally predicted for the Aquarian age, such as greater harmony and peace, kindness, cooperation, and mutuality. And at least to date, humanity has merely repeated and perhaps reinvigorated its penchant for resistance. Thus, we came up with a book that is quite different from what was originally planned. Indeed, I think the final rendition is probably more approachable for general readership than the first would have been. Yet perhaps the most salient information to share with you today is why we wrote this book. Yet the driving question behind its purpose has remained the same. What will help humanity rise to a high enough level to actually manifest the potentialities this precious new age will present? As a spiritual teacher, the question I had to answer dealt with how humanity might synthesize the closing age in such a way as to harvest its most pertinent teachings and throw off the excess karmic baggage the Piscean age left. Yet there is within this purpose a potential problem. Indeed, how shall humans actually synthesize an entire astrological age and find the capacity to integrate it all while being bound to a few years of a single lifetime? Yet a functional synthesis is surely needed if humanity is to ensure against simply repeating old mistakes in a new time. So how might I help humanity, or at least some humans, face an assignment that seems utterly impossible? That is a provocative question, isn't it? Well, in order for humanity to synthesize the learnings of an entire astrological age, it must find a way to exit the small picture, that is one's personal stories, and enter the much vaster scope of planetary evolution. You see, lacking an ability to see the current paradigm shift from this vaster perspective, any apparent synthesis would likely fail. due to being limited to a given time and cultural prejudice. So, as responsible planetary agents to the Aquarian age, how shall you accomplish all that synthesizing? Indeed, where shall you find the necessary information presented in such a way as to benefit you in what is surely the most important assignment of this new age? Perhaps you could read volumes and volumes of historical accounts of the prior age, but it may be difficult to find material that sees history in the spiritual context of an evolving planet, indeed, an evolving universe. Yet, because the assignment of realizing a new age is essentially a spiritual one, maintaining a spiritual context is essential. However, this spiritual context cannot be confined to any single religion or tradition, because the planetary experience is much vaster than any of the traditions it supports. So where, pray tell, are you going to find resources that address the history of an entire astrological age from the perspective of the planet's spiritual evolution? Well, enter, stage left, I believe, whatever happened to the New Age? In the first part of the book, I try to give you my synthesis of the Piscean age, both in terms of the wonders it brought about, as well as the points where the needed mark was probably missed. Well, in the second part of the book, I offer an assessment of what might be possible in terms of spiritual evolution during the Aquarian age. You see, the evolutionary process itself must shift and change with the shifting of the cosmic energies that support the process. Indeed, this is the case with every age-to-age transition. You see, consciousness is remarkably fluid. Therefore, as Earth encounters changing frequencies, they will always be reflected in the creative awareness that greets them. How could it possibly be otherwise? Technology will change. Notions about human consciousness and humanity's shared potential will also change. So will human interactions with themselves, with other living beings, and with the living planet that hosts life in this tiny molecule of the cosmic whole. Indeed, it is likely that during this new age, humanity's relationship to the very universe will shift as new and relatable understandings of the cosmos emerge, shift, and expand. So, in the second part of the book, I attempt to place before you some of the possibilities that an evolutionary leap in consciousness might present. Indeed, if you have an idea of where you are going, the trip is easier and certainly more rewarding. How shall humans evolve in coming centuries? How shall they cope with apprehending the true nature and evolutionary possibilities of the cosmos, or for that matter, consciousness? You see, the new frontier for the Aquarian age is consciousness, isn't it? And since consciousness was and is modeled on the cosmos, one level cannot be truly understood unless the other is. Indeed, if humanity is to embody, no, ensoul, the potentialities of the Aquarian age, humans must discover and realize the next level in the evolution of human consciousness. Thus, if you are asked what this book is about, you can tell the questioner that it is a guide to realizing and a compass for attaining the further evolution of human consciousness. Just that. So welcome to Whatever Happened to the New Age. This is a big book. And Master said a long time ago, when we wrote The Matter of Mind, he said, I'd like to write in the Tibetan style, but in the English language. And he says, really what that means is you don't repeat anything. And I think there are a couple of examples in the book that he gives in more than one place, but he uses them somewhat differently. But other than that, a master is not one to repeat, so you hear it again and again and again. And in some ways that it can be kind of compelling. Not only does it call us to really pay attention to whatever we're taking in, but how we apply it is sort of, I guess, our repeating of his words. As for my process in all of this is very unusual to talk about. I never think about it. I mean, I just kind of sit down at the computer and say, what are we doing today? This was a lot of hours. And much of it was, when we're working with this master is a perfectionist, and it's like trying to get the text to say exactly what he wants to say in a way that there will be the fewest points of non-clarity for the reader, or if he's speaking, the listener. So given all of that, my job is to just kind of show up and go over it again, or put something else down and go over it again. So I think, my process is, I do have a lot of commitment to getting to the end of a project. And this one was really a long project. We started on it in 2019. But it was a study in just sticking to the goal and showing up every day, turning on that computer, sometimes working all night. Sometimes, when you're in this business, or whatever you call it, when you're on a flow, I always figure you should take advantage of it. It doesn't necessarily go by clock time. And the master talks about there being certain kinds of static in the environment, in the ethos, I guess, that sometimes make it difficult for things to come through clearly or succinctly, or if I'm working on a chapter, some of these chapters were so difficult. I would maybe spend 6 or 7 hours and have 2 paragraphs to show for it. So this was not quick and easy process. And I think you'll all get a sense of that when you get into the book.
All of this effort on the book and working on the book was well worth it, just to bring Kathleen and Master's word just to bring their legacy to the world, and everyone who's such a loyal follower. It's touched me deeply to work on the book.
This wise and generous ascended master shares with us the way to break the habits of thinking and reacting, which keep us from realizing our enlightened state. And he paints an incredible cosmic picture that I could feel expanding my consciousness to ever higher levels.
As I started to notice things, I was slowly looking at myself and the world differently. As I knew of Indra's web and things being connected, but these subtle changes in me raised that awareness to a much higher level, and it seems to be continually changing.
Master is saying, and he's exposing us to the idea that the evolution of the cosmos and the evolution of ourselves and everything else in between is part of the same process.
Reading, I think people will be surprised when they read it, actually, because it kind of opens horizons as you read, and that is an extraordinary. I don't think it's ever happened to me when I've read anything else. To be honest, you suddenly feel this something opens, and you enter into this kind of broader consciousness. It's true, it is that.
But part of what's happening as these two ages meet and the energies commingle, there's that static that you talked about, but also that this can be fuel for the change that's needed. Our evolutionary shift needs to have enough oomph to boost us into the, like, boost beyond the resistance. And that's what these current difficult times are about, is waking us up and giving us the fuel to make that shift in consciousness. And it's like, well, if there's like when I watch the nightly news, I do try to, use it to inform my prayers, but it's like the overwhelm often, it's like, okay, this is just fuel. We just gotta figure out how to harness this. So
I think I can speak for everybody. Just a deep and warm, heartfelt thank you to you, Kathleen, for all of your dedication and the magnificent effort, and to all of the volunteers on the book committee, and of course to our dear master. Thank you all for birthing this important work. Thank you, thank you.
Well,
Flynn and all the rest of you who worked on this blessed book. I'm going to read it too, and I just really appreciate all the effort and all the years that went into this. So thank you so much.
for Aquarian wisdom to actually become a force for higher evolution, humanity must not only awaken to an emerging new reality, it must also recognize the folly of blindly following old energetic habit patterns. Indeed, doing so will not facilitate the realization of a new paradigm. While the energies of fear and mistrust may be familiar, they simply cannot solve the pressing problems humanity now faces. In fact, they are actually likely to increase the chaos and prolong the struggle. For many, the global problems and stressors now arising may seem utterly overwhelming, and it must be noted that their solutions are neither obvious nor easily understood. Even so, the problems confronting humanity are not without some value, since these are the factors and the forces driving the evolutionary process. You see, at this particular time in planetary evolution, change is not optional, it's mandatory. We are excited to announce that Master Djwhal Khul's new book, Whatever Happened to the New Age, through Kathleen Kingdon, is now available from masterdk.com for $24.95. You can also purchase this amazing spiritual text from Amazon in paperback version for $29.95 or the Kindle version for $9.95. The 450-page text has 24 chapters of wisdom to help spiritual aspirants navigate the current chaos between the two ages. It's considered a guide to realizing and a compass for attaining the further evolution of human consciousness. Go online to order your copy of this inspirational text now.